Thank you for having us. We are the Agassiz Dojo, based in North Fargo, and we're going to be performing some Japanese swordsmanship called iaido.
Konnichiwa, 皆さん。私はブラッドリー・アンダーソンです。こちらはアガシー道場です。私は剣士勉強のは1996年からしてます。Hi, my name is Brad Anderson. I'm the head instructor at the Agassiz Dojo. I've been studying the sword since 1996 when I went to Japan and stayed there for 11 years. I studied kendo and I studied iaido. Came back, opened a dojo here in Fargo, Moorhead, in 2007, and now we're practicing the sword, also the sword and the stick, and then two swords against each other. So kenjutsu is two swords against each other, sword and stick is jodo, and then iaido. What we just did was the first kata of our kenjutsu set, called Tachi-uchi no kurai. Now my students are going to come out and show you guys some iaido. We've got standing forms, we've got kneeling forms, and then we're going to do a little bit of Jodo for you guys, and then we're going to do some more Tachi-uchi. So, thank you for your attention.
Oh, dang! Are you gonna kill me or something?
So iaido, the roots of iaido go back about 450 years. And we study an old style called Musoshindenryu iaido, which has 48 different patterns in it, both sitting and kneeling and standing. And we also study Seitei Jodo, which is called standard iaido. If you study Seitei Jodo in Japan or in Europe or in the US or South America, wherever it is, it's exactly the same. And the reason we have Seitei Jodo, which was formed first in the 50s, is so that people could test and compete, because it's all the same patterns. So by doing that, we can go through the US Kendo Federation, through the Japan Kendo Federation, and achieve rank or compete. And there are 12 patterns in that. And the 12 patterns in Seitei are actually derived from the older styles like Musoshindenryu, which I mentioned earlier. We also study Jodo, which is based again in older styles, but we practice Seitei Jodo, which actually has 10 patterns as well, and that's sword versus stick. And the thing that we get out of Jodo and Kenjutsu is the distance and the timing, because as you see by my students doing iaido, they're actually fighting against imaginary opponents, one or more. And so by not having that person in front of you, it's hard to visualize sometimes distance, timing, that type of thing. So Jodo and Kenjutsu fills in that gap really nicely by providing us with an actual opponent who's actually either striking at us or reacting to our strike. And so together they pair very nicely. All of these arts are based out of Japan. My sensei, when I studied there, he was over 75 years old when I started, and he was fit as a fiddle. He was still practicing, and he was practicing until he died 2 years ago. So it's a lifelong art. The hardest part about it is getting on your knees, I think, and being able to maintain that posture. But as you watch, you may notice that there's basically 4 given parts of any iaido pattern or kata that you'll see throughout. And that's the drawing of the sword, which is like a nukitsuke. There's series of cuts, which usually ends in a last overhead cut, which is called a kirioroshi. There's the shaking off of the blood, which is actually more symbolic than anything else. That's called chiburi. And then at the end, we put the sword away again, and that's called noto. So the sword starts and ends in the saya, or the scabbard. And that's iaido. We started doing Jodo most of us started doing Jodo about 3 years ago. I started about 5 years ago. So it's new to us. We haven't even learned all of the patterns yet because we just haven't had the opportunity. The closest instructor is in Detroit or Canada.
Oh, he's gonna kill you. Watch out.
If you watch Sensei right now, he's actually performing some kata out of our koryo set, or our old style, which is Musoshindenryu. And it's a little different from Seitei in that it's not standardized like the original or the standard set that we practice. This is what would be passed down from sensei to student versus what you would find in the standard manual that everybody else practices for Seitei. So this is unique to our school. If you direct your attention to the grass, now two of our other students are going to practice some Jodo kata, or the way of the stick. And this is actually, it's a paired kata with one person using a Jodo staff and the other using a wooden sword, or a tachi.
As Sensei mentioned earlier, Jodo is a useful combat skill since we have to imagine much of what we do in iai. In Jodo, the idea behind the stick is that it would be something simple, only a walking stick in terms of what you would defend yourself against to an oncoming opponent using a sword. Oftentimes in Jodo, we practice catching a sword. So in this particular kata, they will be rolling the sword opponent as they attack from a cut to deflect what's taking place. Moves are simple, like a strike to the solar plexus or an area just below your sternum. Oftentimes it can be a strike to the temple, in which we have to guard against injuring one another. Part of any martial arts combat is knowing what your distance is, where your opponent is, and remaining safe when performing these features. This kata is called monomi, in which case Adam will be stopping the sword by holding the wrist as he then strikes the opponent to push them back and threatens the sword, preventing him from coming forward to another strike.
So now Sarah's going to do some more iai kata on the stage, and myself and Sensei are going to do some more Tachi-uchi, which is more paired kata, but this time instead of what you just saw here with Adam and Michael, this will be two wooden swords against each other.
As I hope you've seen during our demonstrations, each person in the kata, in the form, has to be very mindful of where their sword is and where the opponent's sword is. We don't wear armor, we don't wear face masks, we don't wear any sort of padding except on our knees. If we we misjudge the distance, then we will hit someone in the head. So we have to be very careful. To make sure that we're careful, we have to maintain what we call zanshin, or martial presence or intensity of focus. We are focused on our opponent and on our partner. We have to have mutual trust that we will both not hurt each other, and we will both perform at our highest capacity. We are going 100% the whole time. Now, as you might have seen in each of these forms, there is a winner and there is a loser. The defeated opponent strikes first and then is counterattacked by the opponent who will win. You might think that means that the one who won is a better swordsman. That is in fact incorrect. The winner, in this case the brown sword, is actually the student. The junior student, below the senior student who has the white sword in this case. That is because the senior student, the sensei here, knows the form so well, they can judge the distance so well, that they can allow you to win. Senior, junior, yes. At the beginning and end of every session, we bow to each other to maintain that trust and respect for each other and the weapons that we use. Thank you. I got you. So everyone, the last demonstration that we have for you is a form called Karanto, which is part of our old style. We will show you Karanto, and then we will do a closing Reiho, which is a closing bowing ceremony. Careful, we have to make room in the front. Careful, you have to move back. So the Karanto form, and then closing Reiho, bowing, to show respect for each other, our weapons, and for you, the audience. Please begin.
Don't worry about it.
And this is the closing reiho, or bowing ceremony, that both begins and ends every practice that we do. We first bow to the sword, the tools that we use during the practice to show respect. Now we bow to each other to show respect and trust for each other. And the final bow to Shomen. Shomen being you, the audience, or the head of the class, as it were. To show respect for the place that we're in and for everyone here. Thank you, everyone. I hope you appreciated our demonstration. We are Agassiz Dojo, based in North Fargo. Please look us up and think agassizdojo.com. Thank you very much.